Therefore, they are going to be able to set the standards of what is the value system in this country that will be behind the basic laws and what will be guiding the Supreme Court or the Knesset. Either way, it doesn't make any difference. Now, don't try to think that what's going on in your country is the same thing that's happening on. This is the Middle East, and religion and politics are joined together. Within this community, you would think, well, maybe the Messianic Jews would all be supportive of that. In a certain sense, because these people believe in biblical values, we feel very close to them. But when they say biblical, don't forget, we're talking only the law and the prophets. We're not talking about the new covenant. We're not talking about the gospel of grace of Yeshua. You're talking about the more militant view that you would get from reading the scriptures only with the Old Testament, not looking at the new. And also, when they look at us, when they look at the Messianic community or Christians or Gentiles, they're against us. This group of people, the leaders of the blocks of these ultra-Orthodox groups, one of them, I've seen them burn a New Testament in public. One of them has been physically part of assaulting Messianic Jews here in Jerusalem and other parts of the country. The other one has been part of running the interior ministry that has a 20-year policy of discrimination against Messianic Jews. They won't let us fit in there. On the other hand, the left wing, they're open to anything from ultra-left-wing politics to socialism to homosexuality, but they're also open to having us here. So do we fit in with them? Well, we don't really fit in with anybody. We have to have a higher view. We have to look at this from the kingdom. But what I see is that God is forming something in this ultra-Orthodox Jewish community. I want to also say that in their communities, it's a totally closed community. It's where you have the rabbinic authority within it controls every single thing that happens, how you dress, how you eat, where you live, what you do on Shabbat. Rabbinic law actually tells the people what to do in every single aspect of life. Now, I'd have to say that to me, much of that, the large majority of that is wonderful. It's talking about telling women to dress with modesty. It's telling the men never to look at anything that has to do with pornography. It's talking about respecting your parents, having reinforcing family values. I feel very at home in that community, and I spend a lot of time in that community. But on the other hand, that rigidness means that you can't open up to anyone else. And that position right now is anti-Messianic, anti-Christian, anti-Gentile, and really has some racist elements to it. I was thinking about Yeshua. Is he right-wing or left-wing? Now again, don't think about if you're living in Seoul, Korea, or Dallas, Texas. I'm talking about here in the Middle East. In some ways of looking at it, Yeshua himself is an ultra right-wing, militant, ultra-Orthodox Sephardic Jew. He's coming back, goodness gracious, he's coming back leading an army to destroy all the nations that are going to fight against Israel. Who's even going to stand with that? This group of militant, ultra-Orthodox Jews are going to be right in the position that he's coming back to fight for. On the other hand, he is the one that gave us the gospel of grace. He's the one that said, who died as a lamb to give grace and free forgiveness to every person of every ethnic group, that we have total equality and no racial discrimination in any group, and open up the kingdom of God to every nation in the world, not just being Jewish. So you could see him as the most leftist, open, equal rights person in the world. Which one is he? He's both. He's more right-wing than the most ultra-right-wing person we have. He's more left-wing than but he's all got it in his one person. So I think the challenge that we're seeing here in Israeli politics is causing us to ask a moral question, a biblical question, a spiritual question, a question about Yeshua, that we have got to expand our hearts and look at all these different groups in Israel and around the world. They all have their parts of the pie, pieces of the pie. I've described this: if you cut a pie in a triangle, a pizza pie, if you take just that piece, it turns into an arrow to attack one. But if you put all the pieces together, you see the whole pie together. And we believe Yeshua is the King of Israel and the head of the church and the Son of God, the King of kings, the Lord of lords, and the great judge, even more than the Supreme Court judge whose office is right there.